All right, here we go. Give yourself some snaps. That was impressive. I'm very just impressed by your creativity. Well done. I get to teach a lesson today, and if you haven't caught on, we are going to be talking about villains a little bit today, but kind of from a different angle, so hang tight. This is week 2 of our new series called No Problem. No Problem. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Taylor. Hi, I'm Taylor. And again, I get to teach for today. Last week, I believe, broached the topic of apologies, but I wanted to kind of hit it one more time. So, in my experience of being alive, 30 years of being alive, I've heard lots of apologies. I wanted to kind of give you some takeaways to think about. Here they come. This is Taylor's notes on apologies. And yes, Madrigal, right? Go on, apologize. Remember the scene? Yeah. Number 1, don't wait to forgive someone until after they apologize. You ever done that before? Like you're fighting with someone, you're like, well, I'm not going to forgive them until they say they're sorry. Right? Not sure if you've done that before. Okay, just making sure. I'm going to encourage you, don't wait. Just forgive and move on, because they probably don't remember. Seriously, you ever had those people who they do, and then you're waiting for them to apologize and they never do? Right? Don't wait for them. Just apologize, move on. Second, if you feel bad apologizing to a friend or a best friend, you might need a new one. Think about it. If you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to, if I apologize, that's me admitting that I'm wrong, and I don't want to be wrong to them. Is that really what best friends do? Right? Do they really convict you and hold you to it and say, remember that one time you were wrong? So I'm just saying, if you have to feel bad about it, then maybe you need a new friend. Apologies are free. All right, on the count of 3, everyone say, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3. Sorry. Did that hurt? Oh, okay. They're just free. They're words. You could say you're sorry. And I don't want to say you don't have to mean it, because I want to say it in a very specific way. Apologies are free. They keep the important conversations going. Right? If I'm in the middle of a heated conversation with Lexi, and I said something that made her go, oh, Taylor, that did not feel just good just now. And say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can we keep talking about what we were talking about? It's just a small thing. I apologize and move on. Because what we really want to talk about is something a little bit deeper. So suck up your pride and move on. Easier to say. Next one. Time does not heal hurts. Raise your hand if you've heard that before. Time heals all wounds. Raise your hand if you've heard that. Yeah, that's a lie. That's a lie. No, it doesn't. No. And the illustration I've heard before is if someone goes to the doctor because their arm is cut off, and they just sit in the doctor's office waiting, and you know what? It's okay now. I'm going to go walk about my day. Did they get healed? No. They're going to die from bleeding out. Right? So no, time does not heal all wounds. That's a stupid phrase. No, time doesn't heal hurts, but clear communication helps heal or helps move on. I'll give you an example from my life that was relevant. Literally happened yesterday. Next one. An apology is not weakness. Raise your hand if you've heard someone or had someone in your life who kind of more or less convinced you that apologizing or saying I'm sorry means that you're wrong or that you're weak. Yeah, I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. Trying to put your hand back down. It's not the truth. An apology is not weakness. An apology says, I'm mature, I'm responsible, and I'm humble. And I'm just saying, I think we all need friends in our world who are like that. Right? People who are like, you know what? I said something, I was out of line, I'm so sorry. That actually makes the relationship stronger, in my opinion. A friend who's able to say, you know what? I'm so sorry, Jacob. I messed up. That's an easy thing for friends to do. Right? Next thing. If it won't last 5 years or more, this is actually a note about worry. If it won't last 5 years or more, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. Think about it. If I have a conversation with Diane, and one of our leaders, Diane, and I say something, or she says something to me that might hurt me, but it's she didn't mean it that way, and it was just a little passing thing like that, if we're still going to be friends for the next 5 years, it's worth me talking about. But if there's a stranger I meet in the grocery store and they say, that is a terrible shirt, am I going to know them after that 5 minutes? Why on earth would I focus on it? Right? If I'm not going to meet them for another 5 years, don't worry about it anymore. Does that make sense? Just don't if it's something that is not going to last more than 5 years, dismiss it after 5 minutes. That's a rule that I learned from, I can't remember if it was a therapist or someone else. It was a mentor I had a year and a half ago. They just happened to say that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great rule. If it's not going to last more than 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. Next one, and this, you probably have one of these friends. Don't apologize excessively for mistakes or stupid things. That's annoying. You ever had that friend who does something and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm such an idiot, I'm so wrong, I'm so sorry. Raise your hand if you got that friend who does it like 5 or 6 times in a row. And you're like, stop it! Just stop it. You're that person? Of course Lexi's that person. Yeah, okay. But like, and I say it, you're allowed to apologize for a mistake. And you can say something along the lines of, I'll do better next time. Right? Because that's honest. You mean it. Made a mistake, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I'm just going to move on. Okay? I'll do better next time. And then last thing, don't apologize for the truth. You can apologize for how it was received. So, let me give an example of what happened this morning. And by the way, I grab examples that are relevant. Please don't feel like I'm accusing you or yelling at you. But, Bradley, could you please come on down? For the next contestant on The Apology is Right. Come on down! Alright, and Lydia, come on down. You are also joining us today. Now we have in front of us 2 people who were playing pool, and myself was included. I was the judge. Well, not really. I was a participant, right? Didn't we kick someone's butt? Yeah, just making sure. Just kidding. Bradley's like, don't say that to me. So, when we were playing our game of pool, we were... Say what? See, he's still doing it. He said, just wait for later. When we were playing pool, one person in particular was getting quite a lot of smack talk as it was going on. Now, Lydia, how did you feel about the smack talk that Bradley was dishing on us?
I mean, it was more towards you.
It was more towards me.
I didn't really care.
You didn't care about it? Okay.
You were gonna be
She's throwing it right back. You're going to beat him anyways. Okay. Now, here's the thing. These are 2 people. They're relatively new friends. You know, they just kind of met each other and things like that. But what if Lydia had taken that personally? No, seriously. What if she had taken, like, wow, he just called you a jerk, Taylor, and you're my friend. Like, why would he do that? That's ridiculous. Right? That's really rude. You want me to fight him for you? You know, like, I'm just imagining, like, Lydia going, take that to the extreme and wear like that. Is it true that one of us was going to beat the other?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm not going to apologize. Lydia's not going to apologize because I beat you. You know, Bradley, I beat you. I'm not apologizing for that. But if she then, like, rubbed it in and was like, yeah, Bradley, you stink. You're no good. You are so stinky at pool or like that. Now, Bradley has a choice. Bradley has a choice to accept it and be like, yeah, I suck. Or be like, wow, that's a jerk way to say that, Lydia. Thanks. You know, right?
I'd be like, well, wait for next time.
Yeah, we just wait for next time, probably can prove you wrong. But Lydia doesn't have to apologize for saying the truth. I beat you. What she does need to apologize for is how she communicated it. Right? Like, there are certain ways that Lydia could have said, man, Bradley, better try next time. Right? I'm looking forward to the next game. Right? That's what Lydia could have said. Instead, she said, you stink. You stink at pool. Right? Do you see the difference? There's a difference between apologizing about truth and a difference in how it is received. All right, go ahead and take a seat. I'll come back to that one in a little bit. I'll tell you what I mean. All right. So just a small side tangent on apologies. I know it's silly, but I know it was a lot, and I know it's a lot of things that I have learned. If some of it sticks, great. If not, let it go. Just like Frozen. All right, keep on going. Here we go. Today is about forgiveness. Yay. Who likes talking about forgiveness? Yeah, that'd be no one. Because forgiveness means that someone did something to hurt me and now I have to turn around and, like, let it go. Yeah. And people are all the other, I see a couple people going like, this guy holds grudges. And that's okay. Hopefully by the end of this, I'll have changed your mind just a little bit. Or maybe just planted a seed that will eventually change your mind, but we'll see. I want you to first of all think of what makes someone a villain. Think about it. What makes someone a villain? You can think about like a Disney story or like even like in historical times. What makes someone like a really bad dude or dudette? What makes someone a villain? Go ahead.
When they're doing something bad or mean.
Yeah. When they're doing something that in general is mean. I think stealing everyone's Christmas presents at Christmas time, that's mean. Right? That's the Grinch. Right? How about you, brother? What'd you say?
The decision that they make.
Yeah, the decisions they make. Right? They decide something's happening, I should do something, and they hurt lots of people in the process. Absolutely. What else? What makes a villain? Are you kind of voting or are you just scratching your nose?
Wrong intentions.
Ooh, their intentions are wrong. They want to do something that they think is right, but it's only in their vision, only in their scope are they right. Right? They have the wrong intentions. Absolutely. Anyone else? Say what? Selfishness. Yeah, I'm all about me. It's all about me. Right? Hades, in the example of Hercules, for example, wanted to be the new king of Olympus. Right? Wanted to be the boss of all the other gods. Right? Yeah, that is all about himself. What else?
Kind of like, it's almost like childhood traumas, being traumatized, but like being scared of something that happens in the past.
Yeah! A lot of these villains have their own baggage. Right? They've got things that have caused fear or darkness, and more or less that's the only thing they focus on. It's, I will never let that happen to me again. And they'll go through all the hurting of other people to make it happen. Right? Excellent answer. Anyone else? I saw one more hand. One more hand. Go.
When the person would ask for it.
Sorry, what?
When the person would ask for it.
Ah, sure. Not helping when they ask. Absolutely. They're like, I could do that. I'm choosing not to. Right? Elsa and Hans is the example. Excellent. Thank you, guys. All right. Can you think of any figures in history who might be considered villains? Sure, a couple. I'm going to ask a residential expert or history buff. Oh, sorry. Expert, you're going to be last. Go ahead, Christian. Go.
Hitler.
Yeah, Hitler's the first one I thought of. Right? Are there other history, like are other villainous characters in the past? Go ahead.
Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus. If you guys are like, that wasn't that bad. Nah, he came and like killed all the Native Americans. That's kind of bad. Yeah, he's a murderer. Yeah, along with Hernan Cortez and people who just like slaughtered all the new people that were, the people who they had just met. Nice to meet you. Next person.
King George.
King George. Yeah, King George. There are a couple not so nice kings out there in general. Beheaded their wives and things like that. Not so hot. Not such an attractive trait from someone. All right, now we've got our expert. Go ahead, historical expert. Name out a couple of villains.
Joseph Stalin.
Yep.
The Belgian king during Belgium's reign of Congo.
Mm-hmm. These are people who killed lots of other people, by the way. Give me one more.
Ivan the Impaler.
Ah, Ivan the Impaler. Enough said, right? Ivan the... Yeah, Impaler. All right, Lydia, one more.
Joe Biden.
Oh, let's not get political. I knew I should have cut it off before Lydia. I knew I should have done it. Dang it. Ah, that's a little harsh. That's a little harsh. All right, before this gets out of hand, thanks, Lydia. You can go sit yourself out. No. Who is a villain you can almost understand? Now, we're not gonna live that down. I let that happen in church. Wow. Okay. Great. Who's the villain you can almost understand? I actually want to skip ahead on this one because it's already been mentioned. Go ahead. Go one more. All right. Someone mentioned Thanos. Jordan did not know that I was going to be taking a side tangent on Thanos, but I need someone to explain the backstory. What was Thanos thinking? What was his... Because all the things you just mentioned about a villain are picture perfect for why Thanos is picked for this. Jacob, go.
Just sees different things. Like, he takes his problems, but don't hurt people.
Yep. His solution, according to Tori, had the wrong intentions. I intend for there to only be half the organisms in the universe because then there'll be more resources. Can you see how it's only a half-truth? It's not quite there. According to selfish desires, right? According to what Diane said, he is like, I will go through anything. I will kill anyone. I will do whatever needs to happen in order to make this happen. That's pretty darn selfish. According to, oh my gosh, Lydia said something. Oh, Lydia was mentioning about past trauma. What happened to Thanos' planet? Yeah, it got destroyed. They literally starved themselves to death. Trauma, right? The fear of I will never let that happen again. But can you see how he's almost right? Right? That we as, organisms that go about, we see this in the world, in Earth Day, and other places, like we go through enormous spending of natural resources. If we keep doing it, we're going to run out. You can see the truth that's in there, but it's covered in junk. You're like, there is no way. There's got to be a better way to be more responsible than just ending half the universe in a snap of a finger. Right? Can you see how you could almost agree with this villain? Almost. So close. All right, keep on going. Without naming anyone, this is where it starts to get personal. Are you ready? This is where it starts to get personal. Without naming anyone, can you think of someone in your life who you might consider a villain? Do not name them. I saw 3 light bulbs go off. Do not name them. But can you think of anyone, dear God, I hope there's no one in the room, but like, who might be a villain? Someone who has selfish intentions. No, I don't want you to name them. Don't name them. Don't name them. I don't want to know. You can pray for them, okay? That's the most I want to know about them is that, oh, Jacob's got an enemy that I need to pray for. Cool, got it. Can you think of one? Thumbs up, thumbs down if you could think of someone who's a villain in your life. Oh yeah, we got 3 or 4 of you who are like, yeah. And some of you who are like, no, actually, I don't have anyone at odds with. And for the people who don't have odds against anyone in particular, thank you for being peacemakers. There's a promise for you in heaven, just so you know. Challenge question. And this is just one that kind of came to my mind. What would it take for that person to no longer be considered a villain? Would it take just an apology? Would it take apology and then acting like they meant it? What would it take? Would it have to be like they're at your feet going, I'm so sorry, Ariel. I promise I'll never do it again. What would it take? What would it take to change your mind that they're no longer a villain? What do you think, Diane?
Their actions afterwards.
Ah, yeah. You ever had that friend who says something and they swear they mean it and then they don't follow through with action?
Yes.
Same thing for villains. The villain says, I promise I'll do better next time. And 1 minute later they go out and do the same thing they've been doing for years. Yeah. There you go, like Loki. There you go. Get all the villains and heroes coming in here. All right, cool. Last question, which is kind of going to be like one of those, questions. Do you think anyone views you as a villain? I mean, we're all in church. Surely the answer is no. Surely, because we're all good kiddos who came on a Sunday, even though there's a time change, to second service. Surely, we are all good kiddos who don't have villains. But can you think of anyone who might view you as a villain? Huh. One of those questions that makes you go, I wonder. Just food for thought, just going to plant that and move on. All right, next thing we got for this morning, I want to give you a couple of stories. A couple of them. So this is the story of David and King Saul. Thumbs up if you know who David is, like King David. Okay, good. Just making sure we at least know who King David is. Keep your thumbs raised if you know who King Saul is. Okay, there's only 2 or 3 of you. Backstory. King Saul was the first king of Israel. Essentially, all the other nations. It's so funny. We were just learning about this next door. I'm just saying. I think it's cool. So Israel didn't have a king. God was their king, and that's why they're like, everyone else has a king. Can we have a king? And God was like, fine, Samuel, go pick a king. And so he went and found a king, a very tall, dashing, studly man who was like going out and like looking for something at the time. And they went and got him. And he's like, look, it's LeBron James. He's your new king. You know, he's a massive guy. This massive guy who was very good looking, whatever. And that he bombed. He was bad for multiple reasons. And he was actually so like distraught over some decisions he had made that he called this shepherd boy kid named David to come play harp for him. And kid you not, this is David who eventually turned into King David, right? And he would play the harp for him, but the same guy who had called Saul king, Samuel, he's like a prophet, one of those prophet dudes, went and then said, you know, on God's behalf, you're no longer king. Because you disobeyed God, this new kid is going to be the new king. You know, he was like 12 at the time. It's like, I don't know. Remember Goliath? You know the Goliath story? Yeah. This kid, the kid who you just, you know, promised your first daughter to, that's going to be the new king, just so you know. So just as a little bit of background, he would play harp for him, and then Saul would be like listening, and then would be like, ah! And like throw a spear at him. I kid you not, this happened, it's in the Bible, that's why there's pictures. Alright, here's Saul going, I'm so ticked off at this guy, and like threw a spear at him. Right? Now, there is a time in which King David is on the run. He's hiding in caves, he's hiding in bushes, he's hiding in stalls, he's hiding in whatever he can get a hold of and hide in in order to not be killed by this guy, because this is on like a world-class manhunt, essentially, is what was going on in the Bible. There's a time when Saul, in the middle of hunting down David, has to use the bathroom. I know you're like, oh my gosh, he's about to talk about using the bathroom in church. Yes, he actually has to use the bathroom. And he goes into a cave. And he doesn't know that David is sitting in the cave. And he goes to relieve himself. However he was relieving himself, I don't know. And while he's standing there relieving himself, David walks up and he takes his sword and he goes, and he cuts off the corner of his robe. Didn't kill him. Just cut off his robe. And when Saul was done relieving himself, went outside, David came out and said, I could have killed you! But he didn't. Why not? That would have ended everything. He wouldn't have had any more running around and hiding in caves, whatever like that. And here's what Samuel says. 1 Samuel 24:6 says, David said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my, everyone say that next word. Master. He viewed the current king as his master. Even though he's trying to kill him. Shoot. The Lord's anointed, or lay my hand on him, for he is the anointed of the Lord. When they picked a king, they did something called anointing with oil. They get this, it's more like perfume, whatever. They would pour it on their head, and the king's entire face and whatever, there would be oil everywhere. And basically it was like a symbol of God's covering, giving of their authority and their kingship. You still with me? It was like a big divine kind of a thing. He had a very good understanding of what it means to be servant to someone, even though he was the rightful king. Romans 13:1 says, and this is the part where Joe Biden comes back. Are you ready? Romans 13:1. Please say the E word. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from... Oh, that's not cool. That's not cool. And the authorities that exist are appointed by... Oh my gosh! Here's the thing that gets people really tripped up on politics. Are you ready? Sorry, I'm going to stand over here because I'm out of my lane. But it's okay. In America, we have a very interesting political system, right? Where it can sway between parties. Right? Between Democratic and Republican, and Democratic and Republican. And Christians are sometimes in the middle like, who am I supposed to pick? Because that one's okay with killing babies, and that one's okay with doing lots of things that are clearly illegal. You're we're stuck in the middle. And according to this scripture, with whether or not you believe the Bible, there it is, it came from God. Anyone in authority is put there by God. Oh, I mean all those awful dictators who are in other countries killing their people are put there by God? That's a little messed up. You mean the president who got elected this time in the U.S. is appointed by God? Well, I didn't like the last one. How come I have to deal with this one? Well, I don't like this one. Can we have the last one back? Does it change the fact that God picked him? So, regardless of who's in the presidency, or who's in the kingship, or who's in the whatever like that, God put him there. So if you go about fighting the president, you go about fighting the king, you're literally going to be end up fighting against God. Do you really want that for yourself? Okay, I'm going to step over here now. I'm going to just put on a different face. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Here I am, not apologizing for truth. I will apologize for how I communicated it. If I said that in a way that you guys felt was like a personal attack, I'm sorry for the personal attack. I mean that in the most connecting way that I can. I don't mean to hurt you. I want to try and give you perspective. Okay? Am I good? Can I move on, please? Okay, moving on. Let's go on to our next story. Story time. This is about my brother Jackson. My brother Jackson has bipolar. He also went through cancer. And because of his interesting health history, he actually was more or less held back during his sophomore year of high school. He missed almost an entire year. Bipolar is one of those things where you have to have a certain amount of an element in your body called lithium. And in order to get the lithium dosage right, we're talking like milligrams of difference. You can go from feeling like you can fly versus you're sane today. Like it took like 6 months to get him the right medication that he needed. Okay? As a result, he competed for his first cross-country race in his sophomore year. And according to New York State regulations, if you set foot on a course as a varsity runner in any season, you technically have competed for that year by current regulations. If you compete on the varsity team and you run for the varsity team and you've competed at least once, there it goes, there's your year. So my brother ran 2 races in the fall semester of his sophomore year, and by the time he got to be a senior, he was disqualified. You still with me? This is kind of like the context. I will not say his name, but this is the entire team that my brother was a part of. There's my brother. And there he is right there. Look at that. Ripped runner. I'm just saying, I wish I looked like that, but he is ripped. Anyways, but that's my brother. That's the team he was on. And after the first practice, his senior year, which would have been his 5th year, right? 5th year, so he's like one of those, the colloquial is super senior. His coach, while he was out running an errand, turned and told the whole team behind his back that he was actually not competing in varsity this year. Behind his back. I still wrestle with forgiveness with that man. I still do. Being honest, sometimes I have to stop and say, Taylor, just forgive the man and move on. Are you allowed to still feel hurt when you forgive someone? Yeah. Yeah, you're allowed to. But please don't make it an obsession. Don't be a villain because someone hurt you. Okay? Are you good? Can I move on from there? Just a quick little story. All right, go ahead. Can you think of a time when someone hurt you or angered you, but the situation no longer feels like that big of a deal? Thumbs up, thumbs down if you've had that before. Question. What changed? Time changed. What else changed? You know? Go like this. I changed. Something about this, right? I'm a different version of myself than I was 30 minutes ago. Right? Isn't that crazy? I kind of changed a little bit. Right? That's what changed. It's not that time heals, it's that I change. This was a really great episode of Bluey. I am such a fan of Bluey. If you don't watch Bluey, you got to go watch Bluey. I love it. They're at daycare. And this is Calypso, who's like a herding dog. Anyways, she's got one dog over here named Rusty. Anyways, and then he's got 3 more over here. And this is like the very beginning where they're all like yelling at each other. And she's like, whoa, children, this is not how we talk to each other. All this sort of stuff. And so while she's doing that, she hears both sides. And on this side, this episode is called Early Baby because this one in the middle has this like little stuffed animal who represents her little sister who was born early. And if you've ever known someone who is born early, there might be medical complications due to that. So they're playing this game about early baby where the baby had to be placed in a little incubation area and had to be placed like in a safe place. And this one was in a battle against a dragon and he got injured and went to the fake hospital that these ones set up and saw the baby in the cage. And was like, oh my gosh, it needs to be saved. And so he picked up the baby without washing his hands and doing everything and brought it to the hospital. And they were like, what are you doing touching an early baby? Right? 2 different stories. But once Calypso sat them down, they had perspective. And they realized that no one was at fault. It's that there were 2 stories that were coming together. Does that make sense? They received perspective. Right? There's a difference between time and how you change during that time. That's called perspective. Still with me? Okay, all right, keep going. There's another story of Job. Thumbs up, thumbs down if you've heard of Job from the Bible. If you haven't, it's okay. Job is this guy who really had everything. Like, had a family of 1,000. It was like family madrigal, but in one place. Like, had everything. Had tons of cattle, had tons of sheep, had tons of, you name it. He had it all. This guy had it all. And Satan took a liking to him and literally took every single thing from him. Killed all of his family, killed all of his livestock, destroyed all of his buildings, everything. And then he's like, you know what? Just to be spiteful, I'm also going to make you sick. And so this Job guy was like covered in sores from head to toe, and his friends were like, dude, you are broken. You need to just say, God kill me and it be done, because that is a really awful situation. Right? I'm paraphrasing, but that's what happened to this guy named Job. And here's what Job said. I know. This is Job 19. It took him 19 chapters to get here. The whole book is about him, okay? I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end, he will stand on the earth. I've heard this expression before, and everyone go like this. I want you to imagine that your life is a carpet. For a moment. I say this with Diane in mind because she designs carpets and knows what I'm going with here. But when Diane is going about designing carpets, and when I'm thinking about a carpet, whatever, hold your finger up like this. This is what you get to see. And when I look at this little bit, it is a gray blob. Is that very exciting to me? No. But if I get stuck looking at only this, I'm going to miss this. Right? You only get to see this much. That's called perspective. Still with me? All right, put your hand back down. You look goofy. So you got your monocles out still. Sorry, I'm just kidding. I'm playing with you guys. You know because I love you. All right. So, he had a good perspective. In the end, who gets the last word? God does. God's going to watch your life from start to finish and say, well done, good and faithful servant. No one else matters. God gets to decide what's important. All right, keep on going. Matthew 5:43-46 says, you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. And I said, you want me to pray for my enemies? You want me to forgive them even though they spitefully use me? For he, God, makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. You ever notice that people who are evil sometimes still win? Yeah. Does God change in response to them winning or losing? No. Because God makes the sun rise on everyone and makes the rain come down on everyone. Right? Perspective. God's in control. If you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? Right? Raise your hand if you like your friends. Keep your hand raised if you love your friends in like a brotherly way. Keep your hands raised if you love the people who don't act nicely to you. Yeah, me either. It's not a natural thing. Right? We don't do that. And God calls us to a higher standard and says, yes, but you need to love them. And you're like, why? That person is evil. They just go around making the teachers miserable. Why on earth would I love them? Today's about perspective. Here's our main lesson for today. Here it comes. When it's hard to forgive, and it is, shift your perspective. When it's hard to forgive, shift your perspective. Tori, can you come join me for a minute? I picked Tori for a very specific reason. Can you carefully stand on this chair? Okay. I have to do it like this, otherwise the camera won't catch it. All right. This is going to be gross.
Okay.
You're going to be okay. Can I have your other shoe? Your right one? Preferably not your left one. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We are about the same size. You ever heard the phrase, walk in someone else's shoes? Yeah. If Tori does something one day, I promise my feet are not stinky, but I will give it back just before. I just wanted to make the point. There you go. If anyone's ever told you, why don't you try walking in someone else's shoes, that's what we mean. If I tried to live a day in Tori's life, I'd probably go crazy. Because Tori deals with things as a, junior, senior high school girl that I would not even dream of trying to live through. And I'd probably get, stuck in a stall and beat up by another girl by the other day. Probably what would happen. And likewise, if Tori tried to do what I did, she'd probably strangle one of her students at school instead of actually making it through the end of the day. Yeah. Thanks. And do you see the point? If I want to know and understand and be able to help Tori, I've got to know what she's going through. All right, you still with me? Your perspective? All right, thank you. Go ahead and come back down. Thank you. All right, when it's hard to forgive, shift your perspective. Next slide. Crank it through here. Praying for enemies. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Number one, it helps us see them differently. Here's, and sorry I had a typo because I was using a laptop at home that has the E key is a little sticky. Instead of seeing them as, they are so mean, the perspective change is, well, they don't know how to be nice. No one's nice to them at home. Why do they know how to be nice? Right? If someone is constantly like a life-sucking force, it might be because they're surrounded by people who are also life-sucking forces. How will they know to say something nice to you? Right? It's not that they're programmed that way, that's what they've learned. Praying for enemies. It also helps us process the pain. Right? If I pray, if Christian does something and ticks me off really bad, we're on some sort of sports team or whatever like that, and we both are like on the same team or whatever, and like he does something that makes me feel really angry at him, I need to say, Lord, please forgive me and forgive him, because really I just want to bust his face in, but I'm just trying to process. And in that moment, you're asking God to help you. That's called processing. You're processing that event and processing that pain. It also makes our hearts softer. If you remember the story of Moses taking his people out of Egypt, right? Every time Moses brought a plague, it said, and Pharaoh's heart became hardened. Pharaoh was getting more and more and more hard towards Moses and unforgiving. And in the end, it cost him his son, it cost him his kingdom, essentially. So many things were lost. As a second-year teacher, third-year teacher, there are things that I had seen that I would never excuse, write them up for detention, give them a referral, and whatever like that. As a sixth-year teacher with a son, my heart is much softer than it used to be. Why? Because I have perspective. You get what I'm saying here? I understand a little more now. A kid who's going to the bathroom because they're on some sort of substance and they can't get themselves unhooked from it, the best place for them to be is in school, because if they're home, who knows what else they have available to them. Kind of see what I'm getting at? Like, there are certain places they need to be. Colossians 3, 1-2 says, if then you are raised with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on things on earth. Set your mind on things above. It is so hard to forgive people we don't like, because that's not from earth. That's from things above. And God is calling us to have a mindset that does that, which is mind-boggling. All right, keep going. I had some ideas and plans, and it's okay we didn't get to them, but I think about like when it is hard to forgive. Here's some examples. What if like you're with a girlfriend and boyfriend, and then you get split up from them, and now you have to see them every class, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to look this person every class. Or you're on a sports team, and someone got bumped to JV instead of up to varsity, and you're like, right? When it's hard to forgive. Maybe there's someone who's bullying someone else. You're like, I'm not forgiving that person. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. They hurt me. Or you have a tough teacher who gave you that awful grade in the first market period. You're like, I cannot forgive them. They hate my guts. Or in your locker rooms, something happens. You're like, someone just busted a can of Axe and threw it over I hate that person now. You're like, things happen. Questions to consider. How would you feel if this happened to you? Right? How would you feel? Right? I just put on Tori's shoes. I know it's gross, but it kind of made the point. Like, how would you feel if something that happened to her happened to me? Right? Why would it be hard to forgive that person who did that to me, whoever it was? And why would shifting your perspective make it easier to forgive? You get to see this much, and this much is going on. Right? You still with me? All right, because I'm kind of speeding up at the end here, but thank you. I need to give you some side notes really quick. Really quick. Hurting people hurt people. How many times have you heard me say that? Lift your hand if you've heard me say that at least once before. That's almost everyone. Hurting people hurt people. However, say, I am not a punching bag. One more time. I am not a punching bag. Okay. If you are being hurt by people, there's a couple things I need to nail down, but I need a reminder, don't put yourself back into a situation that gets you hurt. Okay? Number one, you are a valuable child of God. Meek does not mean weak. Someone who's shy and timid or kind of backs off or doesn't get engaged, that's not weakness, that's being meek. Number two, no one deserves to be hurt. No one. Flat out. No one deserves to be hurt. Number 3, you are smart enough to not put yourself in one of those situations again. Right? You guys are very smart, very bright kids. You know when things hurt. You also know not to go back and get yourself hurt. Use your brain. Love you. And last one, make boundaries and prepare for scenarios that are important for you. If you keep getting beat up during 5th period because this one kid hangs out in the bathroom to beat you up, don't go to the bathroom during 5th period. Do something different. You can set boundaries. Say, I'm not going to let myself get hurt like this again. I'm not going to do it. Now I try to start still tracking with me. You're like, I still got you. Still got you. All right, I got some dead hands, but it's okay. I promise I'm landing the plane here very soon. Keep going. Reflection. Look to God. Number 1, He's with you. Number 2, He's listening. Number 3, He's strong and powerful and is able to help. You just got to ask sometimes. Number 2, look for the big picture, perspective. Number 3, look at people differently. Here's what I mean. Be curious. Believe the best, because that's what the Bible says to do. Love and believe the best in people. And pray for them. It's going to be hard. But I believe in you. I believe you can do it. And I think the last slide is just a reminder. Oh, sorry. Last 2 questions. Again, just ones to think about. If a friend is struggling to forgive someone who hurt them, what words of advice or comfort would you give them? Because you're going to see someone who's hurt sometime this week. How are you going to comfort them? This week, what's one thing you'll do? Oh, not doyo. That's do to shift. Oh my gosh. Stupid. I don't even know what doyo is. Your perspective on someone who has hurt or angered you. And how can we help? The adults in the room, your adults at home, surely love you. If you are in a stuck situation or a scenario, you can ask. See what we've done in the past. We might have some ideas for you. Now, surely, is the last slide. Okay. When it's hard to forgive, shift your perspective. Fair enough? All right. Let's do real quick. Lord, thank you for this morning. Thank you for every single person who's here. Thank you for Encounter that's coming this weekend, Lord. I just thank you for every single family that's here and for those who aren't, Lord. I just pray that our hearts would be more open and receptive to what it is you'd have to tell us, Lord. I just pray that we would be more ready to forgive. That we'd be less likely to hold a grudge. That would be more receptive to looking at perspective. Lord, I just pray that you would make our hearts more soft, that we would be eagerly pursuing you and your truths. Lord, that we would speak the truth and not apologize for the truth, but maybe apologize for how we communicate it, Lord. Just pray that we'd be more reflective on what we say and what we do and more mindful of the relationships around us, Lord. Dear gracious, we are dealing with some tough people right now, God. Please help them. Please help us pray for our enemies, because goodness knows if they're not in church, they probably need a little bit more love than we do. Lord, I just, again, pray that my words have not gone against yours. I just pray that your truth would win out. And I just, again, pray for everyone this week. Just pray that they would be full of health and full of love so that it overflows out from them onto everyone else. Thank you, God, for this morning and for this time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Have a lovely week for those of you who see Encounter. I'll see you later this week.